with today's news about the Notre Dame game, how disappointing is it to not play Notre Dame and specifically not have them come to Annapolis?
Well, obviously, there's been a lot going on with all of that, from the Ireland game to then being switched to coming here. I knew Chet Gladchuck, our AD, and Jack Swarbrick, they've been in constant communication about things during this whole time. But then I think obviously, with everything that's going on in the country, in the pandemic, and with the ACC and their new ruling, some things happened, some things changed pretty quickly. So I know Chet was involved with that, and he kind of briefed me that there's a possibility, we might lose the game, and they're still working on some stuff. So it wasn't out of left field, and again, a lot of this stuff was recent, just some recent things that happened. There's a possibility, but it was still not a done deal yet. There was still a possibility that it could get changed, or we could still have it. Still, things were up in the air. So I talked to Chet a couple of days ago that they'd be having another conversation. So you started to prep for that a little bit, but then just speaking with him yesterday, just talking that it was a no-go. So initially that was a downer because, it was a big game for our program. We love playing them. I don't know why they say that. They beat us pretty good, but we love playing against them. And so things just changed quickly, though. I think things changed quickly, though, from the standpoint of we went from, the down of not playing Notre Dame here to, okay, where do we go from here? And just looking at our options. And, I mean, we're excited, to be able to play a really good football program that's got a national brand, really good team. Coach Satake is a good coach, good staff. And so it went from, the down of not playing Notre Dame to quickly things changing really quickly. And, congratulations. I mean, my hats go off to Chet. I mean, he worked pretty quickly, to get that done with BYU and Tom Homo. But, we're grateful. We're grateful to be able to play this game on national television against a really good opponent. So, but the initial shock of it, you're down, but it changed pretty quickly.
Chris Vanini.
Hey, Ken, Chris Vanini from The Athletic. With the American announcing schedule format, how important was it for you guys to have that so you could keep Air Force and Army on the schedule?
No, it was definitely important for us to get a game. We want to get another home game. But it had to be the right game, too. We weren't just trying to schedule somebody, and maybe pick up an FCS game or whatever the case may be. I mean, the game had to be right for us. We wanted to play a really good opponent, which everything that Chet and I were looking for, we felt like we got. Losing Notre Dame, we want to play a good program with the national brand. We also want to play a program that we felt like we're doing everything in our power to make sure that not only their kids are safe and their program safe so that we'd be safe. You know what I mean? And so sometimes some of the concerns is, do the FCS programs, do they have the finances to be able to do all the testing that's required? And I don't know that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not on anybody's campuses, but I mean, you recognize that the resources to keep your team safe is pretty expensive, to do all that is required to make sure that your program's safe. And so those are important things for us, important things for Chet. So I'm grateful that Chet, just like I said, was able to work this quickly. But it was an important game, Chris, for us to get. And again, there are other options out there, but we felt like this was the best option for us. Not that, that's going to be a tough game for us. We recognize that they're a really good team. Beat SC last year, beat Tennessee on the road, beat Boise State, over the years. I mean, they've had some pretty marquee wins last couple of years. Beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. beat Michigan State, beat Arizona. I mean, they play anybody and everybody. They play LSU. They play Pac-12 teams, Big Ten teams. I mean, they travel. They're not afraid to play anybody. Obviously, they're independent, but it's not like their schedule of who they play. Their Power 5 teams is pretty impressive. They pick it up and go and play anybody. So believe me, they're not afraid to come and play the midshipmen. They've been in some tough places, so it's going to be a tough game for us.
I know it was mentioned a couple weeks ago, the Army game, even if the season ends up getting canceled or moved, that you might still do that if possible. Is that something you would still be open to if things take a bad turn here soon?
What was the question? That it would be canceled?
Playing the Army game at the end of the season, even if there wasn't a normal college football season. It was something Chet talked about a couple weeks ago. Is that something you would be open to?
I mean, all of our stuff on it, that was going to be a goal because, I mean, the NBA, you kind of see that they're doing well with basically having a bubble, so to speak. And, you know, besides, you know, the coaches leaving and stuff, I mean, there's no better places for creating a bubble than the service academies. I mean, our schools are surrounded by a gate with guards with machine guns, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, if there's any place that could create a bubble, it's the service academies. And so, I mean, we felt like that game would be a safe game as far as keeping everybody involved safe, because that's always the top priority. We want to keep people safe. And we felt like that's a game that you could do that. You know, you could control a lot of the variables and mitigate a lot of things. And so if that was the only game that was going to play, you know, in all my discussions with Chet, we were going to play it. You know, and I didn't really talk to Army. I don't know, but I know they're under the same assumption. Now, if there are some things about where we'd play, you know, and who would allow us to play, I don't know any of that, but we would have found a place if it wherever it's been. And I haven't really thought that far down the road. We just found out yesterday who we're playing, so who our first game was. So I haven't really thought that far down the road.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you. You're on mute, Scott.
Sorry. Todd Karpovich.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this. Switching gears a little bit here. Your defense made some really big strides last year, and then you got a guy like Diego Fagot, who's already on a bunch of watch lists and entering this season. What do you see the next step is for him and your defense overall this year?
Well, the great thing about Diego is, I mean, he's an NFL-type linebacker. I mean, he's 6'3", 240, 245. He can run. He can hit. He's smart. And I think because of all of those tangibles, it's going to allow us to continue to expand the pack. The thing that I'm excited about our defense was, I mean, Coach Newberry is so creative. I mean, I have no idea the things we do on defense. I mean, he's so creative. He's a creative type of person. He hasn't even put in all of his stuff. You know, it's his first year, so kind of, I don't want to say he started at the base. I mean, he put a lot of stuff in, but with a guy like Diego, you're able to expand a little bit more and continue to add stuff to the package. Because not only can he handle it mentally, but also from a physical standpoint, I mean, he's more than a box linebacker. I mean, you know, he obviously can't play in the box, but he's athletic enough to do other things. So it gives a guy like Lou that's creative in what he does with the pieces on the defense to be able to come up with different schemes, different blitz patterns, different coverages. So I think this year I'm excited. I'm excited because now this will be the second year of our guys in Coach Newberry's defense. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a great plus for us. And then when you have the guy at the center of your defense coming back, and he's not only, like I said, not only is he a physically gifted linebacker, he's super smart. His football IQ is really, really high. And so that allows us to kind of tinker with things that you normally wouldn't tinker with if you didn't have a linebacker with that kind of football IQ.
Thank you.
Dave Ginsburg.
Hi, Coach. Dave Ginsburg, Associated Press. Tell me what the challenges are in getting a team ready in this environment. And you talked about the bubble. Is it perhaps easier at Navy than at other schools because there is sort of a confined space?
Yeah, I think the thing is, because I talk to a lot of coaches, everybody's got really good plans, at their facilities, at their lifting, their run. I mean, everybody, you look at what everybody does. I mean, everybody spent months and months listening to doctors and, what's the best way to keep people safe and all the testing. The hard part is when they leave the campus. I mean, that's the hardest part, just trying to, control that a little bit. So at least here at the academy, and it is tough for our guys. Because our guys want to get off the campus. Our guys have been here pretty much a lot of the summer once they're allowed to come back, or when they did come back. And so our guys have been on campus longer than everybody else. So hopefully they can get a break a little bit. Maybe we can take them somewhere where it's a little bit of a controlled environment, because that's hard. But I feel like we are able to control things a little bit better. But it's going to be hard to get ready for football. We've been having several meetings. Lose track of time. It's August, but we've been meeting since March. Coaches in our conference, coaches throughout the country, meeting with your doctors, meeting with people, meeting with your trainers, formulating protocols. When people come, obviously people have installed it, but now you're going to the next phase of playing football. That's hard, and so we're talking about all the things and how do you do drills when your face is next to somebody else. We're trying to keep social distance as much as we can. Try to spread out our practices, spread out our people. We're having to be really creative on our drills, and we're all figuring this out though. I mean, there's nobody. It's not like you can call somebody. Hey, you remember when you guys did this? We're all figuring the drills out. We're at the phase now doing certain drills. I mean, how do you practice drills and play football where you can be safe, just taking everything into account? And I think we're getting closer to that. I think the things that we've heard from the doctors and we feel good about, and the mask and less than 10 minutes. And but I see, with the testing, you see basketball, because I've seen, my question to our trainers, you watch the NBA, so they're playing basketball. You watch the basketball looks like basketball. I mean, it's not any different. It's not like they're playing, a different style of basketball. The NBA, they're playing. But then you see them go on the sidelines, their benches are spread apart, their seats are spread apart. And so I was like, what's the sense? They're playing 45 minutes and they're exchanging body fluids. What's the sense of going and doing that? But, with all the testing and different things, when you can mitigate that, you stay separate. And then when the things that you can't, you're able to come together. But that's all required after the testing, though, which everybody's doing, and I think some of the things that they added would be great to have that 72-hour testing prior to competitions that everybody's required to do. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes the coaches and maybe some of the institutions take some bad raps because nobody's coming out and saying what their plan is. But believe me, we're not trying to put these kids in harm's way. I mean, all of us are looking at things over and over and over. Why you guys we've been doing this for months, trying to look at the best way to keep people safe. And we also recognize if things we'll shut things down. I mean, I don't think there's any president or any AD or any coach that's not willing to do that. But there's been a lot of meetings with different doctors and different people to try to do things right. But it's going to be tough. But, we're trying to figure it out, listening to the advice of our trainers and doctors, and we'll see what happens.
John Schofield.
Coach, thanks. You mentioned before, that they settled on BYU. Can you say without violating any confidences who the other teams were on the potential menu?
Yeah, and I don't want to say settled because they're good. And I know you didn't mean that. You know what I mean? But don't give those guys bulletin board material, man. They're a good football program. So I wouldn't say settled. We were looking for the best option for us. And I don't know all the schools that Chet was talking to. Just think about what ADs. These schedules are normally years in advance. Preparing for these schedules, and here's Chet and all these other ADs. mean, everybody's got problems now. Everybody's got issues to work with, but ADs are scrambling, trying to, fix their schedules within days. You know what I mean? And normally they're able to work these out years in advance with, months of negotiation. So you got time frames. So, but now they're kind of scrambling. So there are some FCS schools, there's some Power 5 schools, but, the home and away and different, there are a lot of different factors that Chet had to deal with. But with everything, considering everything, I mean, this worked out the best for us. Obviously, it looked like it worked out, for BYU, what fit for them. But, we're excited, John. I mean, it's going to be a tough challenge, but we're looking forward to it.
So quick follow-up. Have you ever had a situation other than like a conference championship game where you only have 30 days now to prep for a big team like that? Usually at the beginning of the year, the 11 teams that are on your schedule. You might only have 1 week in between games to really prep, but is this kind of the most unique thing other than a conference championship game you've ever had? And then how are you going to prepare in the next 30 days?
Everything's been unique to everybody. Just we didn't know how, we were trying to practice a little bit, get ready, but we didn't know when our first game was. So you couldn't burn your guys out. I mean, it's not like you can start going full bore for 2 months and get ready. So we didn't exactly, as of late. I mean, originally we knew it was Notre Dame, but within the last couple of days with all the things that happened with some of the other conferences, things kind of went in haywire a little bit. But then you're kind of up in the air. You don't know who your opponent is. You don't know when you're starting. So it's hard to prepare because you don't know the end date and you don't know who the opponent is. So that was really difficult. So we were kind of treading water a little bit, just doing general things, stay in shape, lift, run, practice general things in our walkthroughs. But you didn't really know who your opponent was. You're thinking it's going to be Notre Dame. But at that point, there's a chance that it may not be them. So just within the last 24 hours with this decision, with this new announcement, now it allows us to go forward now. Now we can press forward. We know who our opponent is. We know it's BYU. We know it's on this date. We know it's here. Now everything, it went from kind of you're treading water a little bit where now you're sprinting. So it's, we're scrambling a little bit. Fortunately, I have a really good DFO, Brian Blick. You know what I mean? And he's running around getting things situated now. But, unfortunately, I had to spring it on him late because we didn't know what we were doing. So we were just kind of generally doing things. But now we can start being more specific. Now we can start being more detailed in our preparation. We know who our opponent is. We can start to get ready for them. So it gives us a vision. You know what I mean? Like I said, it was kind of like preparing for a battle. You didn't know who you're going to fight. So you don't know their style. You don't know any of that stuff. So I hope that makes sense. So now it allows us to get ready for our opponent, and we know when we're playing them. So it gives us great clarity now where to press forward. The uncertainty is the other part. Just how do we practice? We're still figuring that part out. How do we do the COVID-19 football practices? That we'll figure that one out on the run.
Scott Abraham.
Hey, Coach, Scott Abraham, ABC7 in DC. Hope all is well. Obviously, when you think of social distancing in sports, football doesn't really kind of fit that bill in a sense. But there's people out there that are very excited for the upcoming season. But then there's also people out there that think this is kind of crazy that the college football season is going forward. Kind of take your bias out of the picture here. Why do you think this is the right thing to do, Coach, to go forward in this COVID-19 climate when there's still a lot of positive tests? And you look at Rutgers, for example, with a big outbreak with their football team, something you're probably concerned of with your own football team. Why is this the right thing to do to go forward with this football season?
No, it's a great question. I mean, it's a great question. We're all concerned for the safety of our players, safety for us, safety for our families. I think, like you said, but this pandemic didn't just start. So it's been going on for a long time. There's been numerous discussions, talking to a lot of professionals, talking to a lot of doctors, a lot of medical people. I think, the general public just thinks that people be kind of reckless, think that we're not. I don't think that's been the case. I think everybody's doing their homework. I think we're starting to find out, obviously, that people feel pretty good about their protocol at their facilities. The hard part, just, with people going home, that's, you're looking at those kinds of things. It's a little bit easier, if you have a bubble. But I kind of, I take hope in what you see with the NBA, that they've been able to play. Baseball is a little bit, there is some contact in baseball, but not much. Maybe you tag a guy's leg or something, I don't know. But I don't know, maybe touching the ball, throwing it. But basketball, you have to touch people and you're sweating. And so you see some of that. But I know obviously they're in a bubble. So there's nobody else coming into their bubble. So they can kind of self-quarantine. But just everything that you hear from the people that we've talked to, and again, we're on a lot of national calls. I'm part of the AFCA board. We've been on national calls with coaches, national calls with doctors, and they tell us all these guidelines. If we meet this, we can still be safe. And if they don't, you don't do it. We've had some tough, candid conversations with our players and our team. And I can't speak for other guys, but I've already talked to guys. Hey, if you don't feel comfortable playing, by means, do not play. Nobody's forcing you to play, and I want you to feel comfortable. We talk about the things that we do. Our players know what we're doing. We've been in our practices. You come to our practices, everybody's in masks. We're all spread apart. We're still in our pods. And so we're trying to, we practice basically 4 squads. Our teams are separated. Certain people can't cross-contaminate. And, we're still trying to figure out how to do some of that stuff to keep people separated. I guess, Scott, my point is we're taking every precaution. We're not being reckless about it. We feel like there's a lot of people that want to do this. We kind of feel like, there's, obviously we want to be safe, but I feel like, football is something that, will give us some hope for the future. But we don't want to be reckless too. And I just, I know there's been a lot of things that have come out with certain demands, and those are fine, because if they realize that the demands, those are all being met. And if they're not being met, then whatever the school is, it's on them to make sure that they're meeting the demands of the players. And it's the same thing for us. If there's something that it's not being met, hopefully we're meeting it. I feel good about our standpoint from the standpoint of not only have the NCAA guidance, our conference guidance, but we also have the military. So the military's protocol is pretty strict, pretty stringent, probably a little too tough. Like I said, our poor guys, they haven't left the academy. So we're kind of in our own bubble, but our bubble doesn't look like Disney World in Orlando, wherever the NBA's at. You know what I mean? Annapolis is the academy is a beautiful place, but it doesn't look like that. So that's, that's kind of where we're at. But it's a great question, Scott. And I don't know. I'm just a person. Everybody has their opinion. But I know we're doing everything in our power to keep our people safe. I know our medical people are doing the same thing. And if we can keep people safe, that we can bring back a national pastime to lift people's spirits, so to speak, and keep people safe, we're going to do that. And if we can't, I'm all for it to shut it down. You know what I mean? But those are just my thoughts.
Stephen Ruiz, and I muted you. You're still muted.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Coach. Steve Ruiz with AmeriForce Media. I'm working on a couple of stories I wanted to ask you about. One is about Coach Jasper. I know you go back with him back to your Hawaii days, but I wanted to talk to you about when you took over as coach at Navy. I spoke with him a couple of days ago, and he mentioned that he had a chance to go with Coach Johnson to Georgia Tech. What do you recall about that period and conversations you had with him about staying on staff there with the midshipmen?
How do you put that? I can't say, because in our mind, Johnson is Yoda of option football. He's the premier elite coach in football. So Coach Jasper and I are like the 2 Jedi Knights, you know what I mean? And so I was going against Yoda to keep him, you know what I mean? And so it was tough. I mean, obviously, if he'd went with Johnson, I would have understood. I mean, we both learned from Paul. We're both disciples of his as far as this offense goes. And so it was two recruiting going on. So it's kind of funny because, I mean, like I said, Coach Johnson's my mentor, is also Ivan's mentor. And so, trying to recruit against your mentor is tough. And like I said, if Ivan would have went with Coach Johnson, I would have totally understood that if he and Don decided to go. I was just I was grateful that he stayed, you know what I mean? Because he's been a huge, huge part of our success here at the Naval Academy. I mean, you just look at all the quarterbacks he's coached over the time. It's remarkable. I mean, just everybody that he's coached in, but it was tough. It was an emotional time because, like I said, Coach Johnson is both of our mentors. So to have to recruit against Yoda as one of the Jedi, I'm just grateful he didn't use his lightsaber on me or anything. But I guess Yoda doesn't use lightsabers; he's used the Force. But yeah, it was. I'm grateful he stayed.
Coach, I also wanted to ask you about the Players Council on Racial Inequality. In your decision to, empower Coach Green to go ahead with that and start that, I was just wondering, was there everything that was going on in the country at that time? Was there one event that kind of solidified in your mind that you wanted to do this, or was it just everything going on regarding racial injustice and social unrest that kind of made you think that was the right way to go?
Well, it started with the George Floyd deal, obviously. It started with that and just everything that happened. And I remember a lot of people were coming out with things and sayings. And I remember talking to my youngest son, Ali, and he said, "Dad, are you going to say something?" And I'm not a big Twitter guy. I mean, I normally don't say anything. And he's just like, "Dad, do you think you should?" He goes, "I don't know. I've never really thought about it." I mean, there's a lot of issues in the world. I don't comment on things. And I said, "Dad, I think you should." And I thought about, he's right. You know what I mean? The majority of my players are Black young men. And, I've been coaching at the Naval Academy 23 years and probably been involved in bringing more, or not me personally, but been involved as a group in bringing more minorities and Black young men to the Naval Academy than anybody that's probably ever lived, in 23 years. And so, just thinking about our players, I thought it was the right thing to do. Obviously, what happened with George Floyd was horrendous. And just, just so what I did is, I just opened it up to our players just to kind of see where they're at. Because obviously we knew it was a horrendous event. But just to open the floor, so when it happened, a couple of days later, we had a team meeting just to let them voice their opinion. And then you start to realize, wow, there are a lot of emotions that came out. And so, but I wanted to be more than a tweet. When I first started, I didn't just want to tweet something. I wanted to be real. And so we did that. And from that, we said, okay, we see where our players are at. Our Black players and the white players want to help. It was a really great meeting. Our other guys of other ethnic groups want to help out. Then we decided to create a council because, the Naval Academy, I still say, is the greatest leadership institution in the world. So we created the council, and I knew that there would be no better director of it than would be R.B. Green. So, he was named the director of this council. In our mind, I think it was the first one ever established in football. But like I said, I didn't really care about tweeting it out, or it wasn't trying to get on the media or anything. It was just, I want to help my players. I want to help them voice their opinion. How can we help them? And then how can we do change? What can we do to create change? And then they've taken the ball and just ran with it. We just had a roundtable last night with several different police commissioners from our area. I mean, and police, law enforcement people. It was awesome 2-hour meeting. So there's a lot of great things coming from this department, from this council, but it's all attributed to R.B. Green and our players.
Thanks, Coach. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Scott Wyckoff.
Hi, Coach. Scott Wyckoff from WBAL Radio in Baltimore. How important is it for you not to get frustrated with not really being able to do everything that a coach wants to do before the season opener? You didn't have the spring practice, and now you have limited practices. It's natural to get frustrated by that, but how important do you think it's going to be for you to keep it from not getting that way as you move over these next 4 weeks in camp?
I really believe the coaches, and just, take it from a coaching stand. I know there's a lot of bigger issues, but in football and coaching, the teams and the coaches that are going to be able to adjust their coaching to COVID-19 coaching are going to be the most successful people. For coaches, we're a lot of people are, but coaches are creatures of habit. Where a lot of us are control freaks. We like to control our environment. I mean, there are a lot of things that you're going to have to change. There's a lot of ways you're going to have to practice are going to change. There's going to be a lot of things, drills are going to have to change. The way you drink water on the field, the way you warm up, the way you dress, how many people are in the locker room, just all those things. We just, we watch a lot of things. If I see something on YouTube or another team or organization do stuff, we always watch it. Or if when we talk to people, we see if we can gather ideas. And the Kansas City Chiefs had a really good thing on, and I think it was kind of conquer, adjust. But it just showed them what they're doing in their protocol, and it was amazing. Just all the things they did. So it just kind of makes you look at things. Okay, guys, here are the things we have to do to adjust. Look at the Super Bowl champs and all the precautions that they're taking to do things. Now, we don't have their kind of money to put plexiglass in between every locker room and stuff like that. But just to look at ideas. And I think the tough part in all of this, Scott, is we just have to look at what people are doing. We have to adjust. And I think the teams and the coaching staff and the players and the programs that are able to adjust the best are going to be the most successful. But if you're able to say, it doesn't do any good to complain about things. That's everything, not just football, but just in life. Our world's in a pandemic. Every country. So we just try to look at what you can do the best and try to and just make the best of it. Don't complain. Listen to the doctors, listen to the scientists, the medical experts, come up with your best plan and do the best you can and kind of go from there.
That said, what's your biggest goal if you have the whiteboard around the corner from what we can see, the biggest goal for you and your staff over the next 4 weeks?
Well, first of all, get in football shape. Because we're like early part of July, like I said, we were quarantined, couldn't really run it. Then, you're running long distance, get ready for a PRT, but the PRT is, a long distance run, a 1.5 mile run is not football. Our game is a quick, explosive game. And so get ready for football shape is probably our biggest thing. Got to find a quarterback. But it would be nice to have spring ball. But like you said, we didn't have it. So we've been having a lot of meetings. We just started our walkthrough phase last week, so that was good. We can start in our practice phase tomorrow. So we're excited about doing all that, and we just continue to build our team. Now, I feel a lot better though now because we know who our opponent is, we know where we're playing, we know who we're playing and where, and then we just start attacking it the best we can. But trying to customize drills for skills that are essential to winning, that's the key to coaching right now.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you.
Jay Drew.
Hi, Coach. Jay Drew from the Deseret News in Salt Lake City.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Coach. Out here, we're very familiar with your ties to BYU. Your son played here. What effect did that relationship that you have with BYU and those ties have on setting this game up?
Well, Mr. Gladchuk our AD did all of it. I'm sure he talked with Tom, but I think just knowing who BYU is, who their program, what they represent, I know that they would have the resources to test, and I knew that kind of the question back to Scott Abraham, hey, you're putting your guys in jeopardy. I didn't want to play a school that I wasn't sure, and none of us did. Nobody at the academy did. But we wanted to play a good football team that we knew that they were doing all in their power to keep their guys safe, that their testing, that their protocol was strict. And I knew BYU would be that. And so I guess for me, the biggest part was they fit everything that I was looking for. You know, Chet had similar ideas, but I want to play a really good football team with a national name, but also a team that you could feel safe.
Mitch Harper.
Hey, Coach, Mitch Harper, KSL Sports in Salt Lake City. Just curious, have you thought about maybe just the emotions that, or what it could mean for the Polynesian community to have two Polynesian Latter-day Saint men, coaching on the sidelines in this game?
I think it's pretty sweet. You know what I mean? Just, talk about diversity and minority. I mean, to have two Polynesian young men, we're both from Laie. You know what I mean? So if anybody's ever been to Laie, that would even make it more remarkable, just how small the town is. So to have, Kalani, the head coach at BYU, and me coming from the Naval Academy, and we were both, raised there. Kalani a little bit in his childhood, but then moved later on. But we were both raised there, and I came there in middle school years and was raised in Laie. But I think it's really cool. He's done a great job there. It's exciting. Like I said, I know a lot of guys on the staff. Actually, my son is married, and my son's brother-in-law actually plays on the team too. So there's a lot of close ties in this game. You know what I mean? Like I said, Jack DeMooney, the recruiting coordinator, was my best friend growing up. So this is an exciting game. We were, Kalani and I were texting a little bit earlier. This is all Laie, championship game, and all of us, we grew up as basketball pickup junkies. Many hours playing pickup basketball. So we're competitive dudes coming from the North Shore, but it's exciting. I'm excited to play them. They're a really good team, and I'm excited for our guys too. This is going to be a great challenge for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Bill Wagner.
Kenny, writing about your new assistant, James Adams, I spoke to Coach Newberry about him, and he was very complimentary. And just your thoughts on James. And I know it's been an odd for him to come into the program at this time, but from what I hear, the players like him. And just tell me your thoughts on James Adams, and do you feel obviously you hired him?
Well, I feel like hit a home run with all the guys they hired, but obviously with Newberry. But I feel like I hit a home run, with James too, and I'm grateful for that. A lot of his, suggestions of Coach Newberry, and some of his suggestions of guys, but just him coming here, obviously, losing Brian Norwood, my great high school friend, my dear friend, and a really good coach, was really hard. But I feel like we landed in a good spot with him, with James coming. Very similar, just a good person, man of integrity, man of faith, great teacher. But I'm really, really excited to have him. The players love him. And I'm excited to have him. I'll just say this early on with him, and just mark my words on this. I mean, this guy is going places. Hopefully I can keep this guy here a while, but wouldn't be surprised, retired sometime down the road in Hawaii watching games and introducing, the head football coach of the Denver Broncos, James Adams. I mean, he's a special, special football coach, and he's a great man.
Well, I know you're a people person that likes to build relationships. Has it been hard to indoctrinate James into the program because of pandemic, or do you feel like you've gotten to know him well and, built a relationship?
Well, as we meet every day, you know what I mean? And so, yes, I've, got to know him very well, I believe. And like I said, just kind of a little bit back to Scott Abrams' question, like people are wondering, with football, what are we doing? I mean, really, things haven't stopped. You know, we might do things like this in Zoom, but you know, your job has not stopped. So um, I'm really excited to have him. Like I said, we've been around each other and coaching, you're around each other a lot. Right here it's more by Zoom, but whether we've had recruiting calls together, so you do football stuff together, but there's also recruiting calls that you do together on Zoom. So you get to hear, basically you're at home visits by Zoom. So you get to hear a coach talk to parents and the recruit, and you hear of his passion and you see his interaction with the parents. I've seen him, you know, interactions with our players and what type of young man he is. And so I feel really good about him. Now, obviously you build more relationship with time, but I feel very comfortable with our relationship.